Hello, good morning. It's just gone 8:30 on Tuesday, the 2nd of December. I'm off winter tramping tonight. I'm heading about 42 miles up into the Cotswolds. I'm spending the night at an 18th century chapel. Camping is a relatively new concept of camping overnight in historic churches. The chapel is in the sleepy village of Bybury in the Cotswolds, although some people would say it's probably saturated with tourism. And the chapel's tucked away in an adjoining little hamlet called Arlington. More about that when we get there. As it's the other side of Cirencester, I'm going to be riding up along the old Roman road, the Fosseway. And as I ride up there, I'll tell you some interesting facts I hope that you won't find elsewhere on the internet. Looks like it's a lovely morning after torrential rain yesterday. So although it's not flooded here, I think probably some of the roads we're going to be riding, maybe the Fosseway itself may have some groundwater, we'll see. Anyway, I'll speak to you as we leave Bath and we climb out of this river valley, up from the Avon, crossing 8 watercourses. I'll tell you a bit more about those on the way. Anyway, I'll see you on the outskirts of Bath. Okay, a couple of miles later, I'm on the outskirts of Bath, at Bath Eastern, about to pass into Bath Ford. This is known as Five Ways Junction. So I'm going to start climbing out of Bath here, up onto very high ground, which we'll stay on most of today's ride. It's the Fosseway, it's a well-defined straight line, but there is difference of opinion on how the Fosseway left Bath, so let me try and explain. This is the A4, Bath up to London Road. On the other side of it, a couple of hundred yards, is the River Avon. That's going to start snaking out that way in between the hills through the valley to Bradford-on-Avon. This is known as Five Ways. So that's Coal Pit Road, and this is Foss Lane. That is what some believe is the course of the Roman road out of Bath, Foss Lane. And as you go up there, there'll be plenty of nods and hat tips, Foss cottages, Upper Foss House, that sort of thing. This is the modern day Bannadown, which basically does the same thing. It does a couple of curves where that cyclist is, then there's a long straight section, then there's a curve near the top. So let me paraphrase 3 historians who were considered to be experts on Roman roads. I've got access to the research, but I'm not authorised to duplicate it. But what I can do is kind of reformulate it, tell you the gist really. Richard Colt Hoare, a renowned expert on Roman roads in the 18th century, believes that was the course of the Roman road out of Bath, up Foss Lane onto Bannadown Common, about 700-800 feet in elevation, where we're heading. But in the 19th century, Thomas Codrington, and in the 20th century, Ivan Margery, both believed the more probable course was along there, turn left, up Morris Lane, and it cuts out this curve and it would join the straight bit of the Fosseway. And at the top, as the modern day Bannadown bends round, you can still see the course of what could be a Roman road up there. And there's also something up there which is intriguing. I only discovered it recently by using LiDAR. So I've ridden both of these and I'll put them on the map now. On the left you'll see the Foss Lane, and on the right you'll see Morris Lane. It's still quite bendy, Morris Lane, because of the modern alignment of it. But if I stop my Garmin where there's little curves and bends, and if I cut out the big curve at the top of the hill, which is a modern coaching road, and then restart it once we get to the top, I think you'll see the Strava track will show you that really is a straight line. I used to think Foss Lane was the Roman road out of Bath, just because it's called Foss Lane. There was so many references to it up there. But after reading a little bit of research, I've changed my mind. I now believe it's Morris Lane, which then joins Bannadown and then leaves Bannadown up through some footpaths onto the common before it rejoins it. Let's leave Foss Lane and Bannadown Road, go along a few hundred yards, and we'll turn left into the sun up Morris Lane. Both of the options start off really steep at the bottom and then it levels out. So it really is lung burst in the first few hundred yards. So you really need to run up to this. And ironically, There's some roadworks here. This is it, where that lorry is. It says road closed. We may have to push up here. So normally, if you get a run up to this, you can just about get up here, but there's no way I'm going to do it by walking. So I guess I'm no more than 100 yards, 150 yards up. You probably tell I'm out of breath. Can you see how high up we are already? And just along here, about twice as far as that third car, is when it levels out, and then it'll carry on climbing steadily up to the modern day Banner Down Road. Okay, just about to get my feet in the pedals. You see that tree line we're heading for? That's the elevation we're climbing up to, and it's just about levelled off here. Warley Drive. Lee means clearing in the woods, doesn't it? So I imagine this all used to be wooded down here. Extension of that up there. There's a meadow park up here as well, which again with the Lee and the meadow suggests this was all wooded once upon a time. It's been cleared for housing. As I say, I'm going to stop the Garmin every time the road wriggles a little bit. There's a junction coming up here, then restart it so you get that artificial straight line. But I think that does demonstrate quite well how straight this option would have been. A little anecdote from up here. A few years ago I made a video about it. I tried to replicate a journey from Bath along the Fosseway up to Easton Grey, and then turn left there onto another Roman road called Margery 521, which went across to Arningham Bend. And Ivan Margery, the historian, thought there was possible Roman crossing there. Ivan Margery believes that would have been for the commodities in the Forest of Dean, because until it got washed away in the 18th or 19th century, there was actually a well-known ford there, a crossing at low tide. Anyway, I came up here dressed in my Roman centurion outfit, and this woman was chatting to me. She said, "Did you realise Foss Lane's over there?" And I said to her, "Yeah, I do, but some historians believe this is the more likely course of the Fosseway." And she lived here, and even she hadn't heard of that. But that gives you an idea. Even people who live on the street are unfamiliar with that. Going to stop the Garmin here because we're going right and immediate left to carry on our straight course. Just a modern day little kink. So the course probably was on our left up here. And here we are, about to join the modern day Banner Down Road, which is very straight for a mile or so. Okay, we're now approaching the tree line, and can you see the road, the modern day road, bends off to the right. It curls round. It kind of hugs the edge of the hill line. Even in modern times, it's quite a steep bend going up, and a fast blast coming down on the bike. So here, where that Land Rover is, about there, I'm going to stop the Garmin because you'll see there's a footpath going up there, which is a coincidence, or maybe not. That could well be the course of the old Fosseway before they put this bend in to ease the gradient. Okay, so I'm stopping it about here. Okay, about there, I've just stopped the Garmin so we get one of those artificial straight lines. But also here, just behind here, if you look at it on LiDAR, which is laser mapping from aeroplanes, and it penetrates all through trees and overgrowth. In there, if I put it on the screen, you'll see what looks like 3 sides of a square. When you look at it on Google Maps, it's just 3 sides of trees, but in a square shape. And then the bottom, the base of that square, would have been where they took the road out. So it could well have come out here. I may be putting 2 and 2 together and getting 10. But if you think about it, that could well have been either a temple or a house of a rich person. But if you look at that view over there, with a view like that. So I sometimes wonder what a temple may have looked like up there. The great thing with AI, I can say, what would a Roman temple have been on a hillside looking down into the valley in Roman times with a road next to it, and this is what it came up with. Anyway, we're approaching the summit. You can see the road goes round in a big bend, but the course would have gone up there, and as we converge back with it, I'll try and film it on the left hand side. You can see definitely raised vegetation. It's where the footpath is going up. On the other hand, it may just be a coincidence. We're now bending round, you can see the real edge of the hillside, and then it's going to curve back to the left to join the very straight course of the Fosseway. So if I am correct and the Fosseway did come up there, we're actually now starting to rejoin it or start our convergence. And there's a footpath which very conveniently runs alongside here, and it would emerge exactly where the 2 courses do join, whether it came up Foss Lane or this way. Once you're up on the top on Bannerdown Common, it's roller straight for miles, most of the way to Lincoln. As we approach the summit, look over there, in between this mound and that mound, course of the footpath, which is going to intersect our road up there. The final climb of the hill. Although the second and third part of this theme of the Fosseway will be showing you the watercourse crossings where there's water. It's in valleys, isn't it? So the line of the Fosseway may appear straight on paper, but it's far from being flat. It sure ain't flat. So that footpath converges with us almost here, just as the road straightens. So now we are without any dispute on the course of the Fosseway. And as you run alongside fields about 5 or 6 feet down on our left and our right, you can see clearly you're on a raised agger. Popular with walkers and dog walkers up here. Okay, let's go and have a look at this sign. It says Bannerdown Common. Okay, there's this notice board in the car park telling you about Bannerdown Common, and it tells you, look, you are here, Fosseway, Roman Road, continuing to Lincoln via Cirencester. That's where we're heading along there. If you come up through Foss Lane, you'll come through the woods, and there's an equivalent board there, and it clearly says there, course of the Roman Road, and it's suggesting that's it, and it could well be. I'm happy to be proved wrong. Okay, let's head along the Fosseway. Next stop, Lincoln. Actually, we're heading up to Cirencester along here, and the Fosseway, you can ride it most of the way between Exeter and Lincoln. I did that a few years ago, apart from one section just south of Cirencester, which affects our route today. There's been a Plumpton Airport on it, Cotswold Airport. So when we get there, we can either deviate to the left, to the west, and rejoin the Fosseway into Cirencester, which is a very busy road, but because we're heading east, I'm going to deviate off to the right, eastwards. So you'll see from the route map, we almost get to Cirencester on the Fosseway, and then we wiggle around the right to get up to Bybury and Arlington Chapel. Can you see here the agger? We're raised about 7 or 8 feet above the fields here. So the cross section would have been semicircular to allow drainage off into ditches. So the next point of interest about the Fosseway will be the river courses it crosses. I've always been aware of them because I did a route the other day. I thought, oh, I might as well count them and see what they are. And there's 9 counting the River Avon we've just left. That's in about 20 miles between Bath to Cirencester, or should I say Aquasulis to Corinium. It's a great shot of the Fosseway, isn't it? You can clearly see the raised agger and the fields on either side, about 7 or 8 feet below us. So maybe a little bit about the champing. I first discovered champing through a YouTube subscriber a few years ago actually, and I thought I'll give it a go, and I loved it. I really did. I've been hooked ever since. It was just coming out of the COVID lockdowns, and the youth hostels are no longer able to offer solo travellers the choice they used to. So I was looking around for other things to do, so I tried it and I loved it. But obviously, being churches, stone buildings, they can get quite cold even in the summer. The champing season up to now has roughly been Easter to about the end of October. But this year they've introduced some winter champing churches, and this is one I'm going to go to. So this will be my 8th visit to a champing church. I know that because I logged into my account last night and checked. So I'm really looking forward to it. So it's an alternative to winter youth hosteling, like I did the other week up to Brecon Beacon's youth hostel. Something nice about going off in the winter and heading for a really nice cosy warm accommodation. And I'm cooking chicken curry tonight, and hopefully pick up some bottles of Cobra Lager or something that'll go well with curry tonight. Okay, let's head along the Fosseway. There's a bit of traffic along here. It's heading from Bath up towards Marshfield and Chippenham and Cullen. Along here, the main modern road bears off to the right. We will carry straight on along the Fosseway, and then it will become either traffic free on bridleways off road, or very, very limited traffic on minor roads. It's such a beautiful day today. Yesterday we had torrential rain and strong winds, 40 miles an hour plus. So yesterday was a bit tempestuous. I was hoping that wouldn't spill over into today because I'd already booked this last week. Can you see the modern day road taking most of the traffic is going off to the right towards Ford and Cullen, and we're going straight on along the Fosseway to the Shoe, which is a road junction. So we should lose the traffic here, not that there's that much of it. We're now going to run alongside the old Cullen Airfield that side. So our next point of interest along the Fosseway is going to be its river courses. I'm going to go along here a mile or so, then we'll drop down steeply and cross the Duncan Brook. And we're coming up to our next points of interest. It's water courses that it crosses. There's 8 in total on today's ride, and this is the first. There'll be 9 if you count the River Avon valley that we've just left. You see the steep drop we're going down into? So we're going to cross a water course. This is a perfect example why I find riding Roman roads so brutally hard on a bike, because they go over obstacles rather than around them. Gosh, mist down in the valley. So we've just dropped down in this valley. There's mist over in the fields. As you descended, you came into it and you could feel the definite drop in temperature. This is the Duncan Brook, the first of our 8 water courses we're crossing today. I say water courses, can you see there's going to be a lot of groundwater. That car just slowed down so it didn't aquaplane me. So there would have been a Roman crossing here whether it's a ford or a bridge. I'm guessing it would be a bridge because of the steepness of the valley and the flow of the water, as you could see in winter after a lot of rainfall. Then we've just lost a lot of elevation and we've got to climb back up and gain it again. The next water crossing is the Broadmead Brook, and there's a possible point of interest there. Again, it's another theory, so I've got no evidence. This one is just gut feeling, just a guess basically, but it's based on kind of logic and thinking, so I'll try and explain that when we get there. Just makes you realise this was a main artery 2,000 years ago. Trade route, you can just imagine carts coming along here. Or Roman centurions, legionnaires going that way. Who needs a TARDIS when you've got a hippocampus and an AI editor? I can't help but let my mind wander coming along here. Imagine those journeys 2,000 years ago.
Stone to stone, the miles unwind. The line of ages carved in time. From Devon's coast to Lincoln's spire, the Fosseway burns like a thread of fire. Marching on the Fosseway line, straight as truth through oak and pine. Soldiers' boots and wheels of trade echo where the pathways lead.
You can see we're dropping down. We're approaching our next watercourse crossing, and there's something here which I find fascinating, which I'll share with you. So we've just dropped down, and this is the Broadmead Brook. It's more like a river this time near, isn't it? Flooded, and it's heading down that way. The few cars that are coming down here are taking it very gingerly because of the flood water. So this is one of two brooks that rises up near junction 18 of the M4. This Broadmead Brook rises south of the motorway, and the Burton Brook, which is what we're going to be crossing next after we've climbed up and back down again, rises north of the M4 motorway, and they run parallel with each other, start to bend round, and they converge, they join at Castle Combe. And it's that famous scene you see on all the Castle Combe postcards, you know, what they call the Dr. Dolittle harder. The two brooks converge and become the Boy Brook, and then that turns 90 degrees and then heads down to Bath. It flows into the River Avon at Bath Ford. If I show the Garmin, which is recording the distance, we're coming up to 10 miles from my home in Bath. And I think this could well be the point of an overnight stop during a Roman road journey 2,000 years ago. So let me just try and explain briefly my theory, and that's all it is a theory. During Roman times, the distance travelled along a Roman road was round about 40 kilometres a day. That's about 25 miles in English money. And on a hilly route like this, it was probably less. You imagine they were either marching or there were horse and carts carrying heavy goods and commodities. On a route like this, it could have been even less each day. And bearing in mind, a lot of this is up on high and exposed ground. I believe there could well have been an overnight stop here, a Mancio. It also says in the distances that Romans travelled 2,000 years ago, there were also way stations every 17 kilometres, which is about 11 miles, and we're coming up to 10 miles. What makes me think there could have been one here? Well, first of all, a fresh water source. Also, it's round about the distance it would be from Bath to the next Roman settlement, which is what we're going to be visiting in about an hour's time. So this would have been equidistant, and also it's down in a dip, so it would have been sheltered from all the harsh elements up on high ground. You can imagine during really cold weather or torrential rain, this would have been quite a sheltered spot. And the destination of the Roman settlement, which we're going to visit, is almost a mirror image of this. It's down in a dip by a river. Again, I fed it into an AI photo generator and just said, what would a Mansio look like next to a Roman road in the UK? And this is what it came up with. So, as you can see, just fairly basic accommodation, but obviously places to feed and water and keep the horses safe overnight. So I've no evidence to support that whatsoever. It's just my gut feeling and instinct, and also a bit of logic says there could have been a Mansio here. I don't know, there may not have been. Once again, I'm happy to be proved wrong. It really is just a guess, but I often think that as I came along here. Imagine on a wild, blustery, wintry night dropping down here and not seeing all the welcome lights of fires and candles, and just knowing you're sheltered from the elements to the next day. Anyway, onwards that way. This is Foss Gate, at the boundary of Littleton, Drew, and that overpowering noise you can hear is traffic of the M4. So the Fossway has just crossed it, so that's going east to London, west to Bristol, Severn crossing in South Wales, and we're carrying on our straight line, heading roughly southwest, northeast. Along here, our first section of off-road on the Fossway, on today's ride anyway, carries straight along there, perfectly rideable. And the good news is we've left most of the hills now. It's relatively flat from now on. These sections are bridleway, so you're allowed to cycle them. Horse riders use it, motorcyclists use it. You'll quite often see scramblers along these sections, and obviously walkers, dog walkers like the lady I've just passed. You can see it's a bit flooded after that rain we had yesterday. I have to weave in and out, trying to avoid the worst of the puddles. Normally it's quite a hard, compact surface along here. I love riding this. Just imagining those journeys from 2,000 years ago. Where they're heading north to Cirencester, further Leicester, Lincoln, or beyond Lincoln, or were they heading in the direction I've just come from, towards Bath, or Ilchester, or Exeter, or beyond. And of course, journeys wouldn't just have been along the Fossway, just as in our modern road network. Roads went off them to smaller destinations and we're going to be crossing one of those in a few miles' time. A Roman Interchange, junction 24 of the Fosseway, or should I say junction XXIV. You've probably driven or ridden past it many times without ever realising it was an important Roman crossroads or a junction, and so had I as well, till I started delving a bit deeper into Roman roads a few years ago. I can avoid most of this surface water and puddle water just by taking it steady, and as I always say, why would I want to rush? I'm not some middle-aged guy who thinks he's riding the Tour de France. Oh, that was a lot deeper than I thought. I've got a very, very wet left foot now. I've bought a rag to wipe the bike down with. I always do when I stop at travel lodges. If you're going to wheel your bike into someone else's property, it's just polite and respectful to wipe it down. So it's going to need wiping down after this section. When we leave the Fosseway near Cirencester, we're beyond minor roads then, but there could still be some surface water. One dry foot and one wet foot. I really do love winter cyclotouring, especially if you know you've got reserved and booked accommodation somewhere you're heading for that you know is going to give you food, shelter and warmth, the basics of survival. If you've watched my last few videos, hot tent camping or the youth hostelling, you realise that I've got ways of drying out wet clothes and wet shoes, namely a hot tent, wood burner or the drying room of a youth hostel. Tonight I've got to think a little bit differently, so it's just occurred to me. I'm going to go through Cirencester anyway. I aim to try and find a shop to pick up some lager for tonight. I mean curry and lager, but fish and chips isn't it? I may try and pick up a cheap newspaper and just stuff my shoes with it. It's the best way I can think of drying out wet shoes. Sign of times, I'm afraid. Joyriders coming along here by the look of it. A couple of burnt out carcasses of cars there. We're just about to join the tarmac up there, just past where that white fan is, on an S-bend of the modern road, but then we'll be carrying straight on. We'll be leaving it almost as quick as we've joined it. This next section of off-road byway is very easy to shoot by and miss. Believe it or not, it would have been a major junction in the Roman road network. Hard to imagine. I rode past here loads and loads of times over the years before I even realised the significance of this spot right here. A Roman interchange, ladies and gentlemen. So this is the Fosseway, carrying on this way, off-road byway. That goes from here, it connects the Fosseway with the Forest of Dean. So it goes straight along that way, drops off the Cotswold Ridge at Nymphsfield. It probably terraced down, zigzag, but nobody's sure. Carries straight on towards the River Severn, across the modern day A38 and goes along to Arlingham Bend, where there was either a bridge there, a ferry, or I believe it could have been a ford crossing. So a major Roman interchange here. Could easily ride by here and just think, oh, that's just a lane down there or a footpath. Arlingham, Forest of Dean that way, Lincoln this way. Let's press on. I would imagine this was a major Roman road along here. The first time I rode this section of the Fosseway, I was trying to put all the pieces together in a straight line, and I was aware of motorcycles coming. I thought they can't be coming down here. They were there's about 4 scramblers came by, and I realised then this is quite popular with motorcyclists. Here's our next watercourse, and this, if my reckoning is right, is the Goresbrook. The name may ring a bell if you've been following my videos over the summer. I've been visiting all 36 churches in the new project, the Athelstan Pilgrim Way. It's based around 6 benefices in North Wiltshire, and we'll be doing a bit of that tomorrow actually. One of those benefices is called the Goresbrook Benefice, named after the Goresbrook, which we're crossing here. And our next river crossing will be, is it the Malmesbury or the Tetbury over? And I'll have to check my list. That's down in a dip, and that's where we're going to have lunch at an old Roman settlement. Just riding away in this direction from crossing the Goresbrook. It was up a slight slope, but it was like riding up a river basically. All the water was flowing down. You can see there's much more of a suggestion of a track along here, isn't there? It feels like you are on a road to somewhere here. Well, we are, the road to Lincoln. I'm looking forward to a sandwich along here when we drop down. We stop at the Roman settlement as we cross the next watercourse. I don't know what time it is, but I'm definitely getting a little bit peckish. Should be coming up quite soon. Here we are. Just going to drop down to our next watercourse crossing. In fact, it is a river, and that's where the Roman settlement is down there, and that's where I'm going to have a sandwich. So there's a sign here from Wiltshire Council where everybody matters. And it says, "This site is a scheduled monument of national importance. Do not attempt to leave the designated track, the Fosseway. Do not access the river or riverbank." It's tempting to do it down there, but they ask you not to, and I won't. I normally cycle down here because motorcyclists come down and up here, and I think, well, if motorbikes can do it and I'm on wide tyres with good grip, I can. But you have to remember there are people walking up, so you really need to ride down here cautiously. I'm not going to do today because you can see just how slippery and treacherous it would be. Here we are at the foot of the hill, crossing the river. What a gorgeous spot, hey? This is the Sherston branch of the River Avon. I've got them all written down. I did a bit of research the other evening, and that's where they ask you not to walk across there. It's very tempting to, but it's a scheduled monument. I wouldn't do that. I really would not. And there's an information board here telling you that they think there was a Roman settlement here. A small early Roman town that straddled the Fosseway. The Fosseway was a major road across Roman Britain, and settlements were established along its route. Here at Easton Gray, evidence of a small Roman town was first established on an important river crossing, and possibly had ramparts, 4 gates and stone buildings. There's an artist's impression of what it could have looked like. Roman finds from the area, such as ceramics, roof tile, coins and sculpture fragments, indicate that the site was occupied between the 1st and 4th centuries AD. The most recent excavations close to the river revealed substantial and well-built stone structures. It has been suggested that the settlement may have had a military origin, perhaps as a fort protecting the connections and supply routes along the Fosseway. And that's where the Fosseway would have gone up. The modern day course is along here. Can you see how flooded that is? I don't really fancy riding through that. So I'm actually going to walk up the field. I've never done it before. So the route would have gone up there, and at the top of that hill we'll be well away from the flood and the mud, and hopefully we'll be able to climb over a gate there, even if I have to decant the panniers and everything. Yeah, it's not padlocked. and it is a footpath as well, so as long as I don't ride, I'm okay to walk up there. This is going to be my lunch stop anyway. So we left the River Avon, climbed up the River Avon Valley at Bath. That was at the bottom of Bannerdown, Morris Lane. Then we dropped down, crossed over Doncombe Brook. Then there was the Broadmead Brook, which I think there may have been a Mancio there. Halfway between Bath and here. And guess what? This is down in a dip, isn't it? Sheltered from all the elements by fresh water. Then we crossed over the Burton Brook, that's where the waterfall was. We've just crossed over the Galls Brook, and this is the River Avon, the Shurston branch. And then we've got the tributary, oh, there's some unnamed watercourses, they're tributaries of the Tetbury Avon. And then eventually we will cross the Tetbury Avon. There's a packhorse bridge there, but there's one heck of a ford there. That's really impressive, so I'll stop and show you that. Meantime, lunch. Oh, that's excellent. That lady just came down with 6 dogs, 5 of her own and 1 she's dog sitting. She confirmed that I can go up there and get through a gate. There's one, there's a straggler. I said I didn't want to walk through that, I wouldn't be able to ride through that, I'd be walking through it. She said no, that's why she's come down this way, and there is a gate at the top. So, a bit out of breath walking up there actually, and here we are, back on the Fosseway here. So we're back on the course of the Fosseway. Right, get my breath back and then we'll continue. We seem to be making slow progress, but when we leave the Fosseway we will get onto metalled roads, and then it'll be a quick scoot through Cirencester, try and pick up some Cobra beer or something suitable for curry, and a newspaper because both my feet are wet now from walking through that grass, and then we'll head on up to the chapel. Be nice to be there for 4 o'clock. We've just come across there, we're going straight over this minor road, carries on as a byway. You can see this section of the Fosseway is a lot more hardcore and compact. I think it's a farm road connecting farming communities, so it's a lot better maintained than back there. Although I've got to watch out for the puddles, I'm clawing back some of the time I lost back there, and now it is actually metalled for a while. See, there's some cars along here. Doesn't really lead anywhere up there, just turned into a track again. That's probably somebody who lives along there, coming down to the main road. Right, let's give way here. See, byway, open to all traffic. We carry on that way. There's a Fosseway something along here. I forget what it's called. Is it Fosseway Cottage? Foss Cottage. Oh, I like that. Huntsman there with his horn and his hounds. See the alignment of the Fosseway, can't you? The way we've just come. Flooded fields and the way we're heading. So we're coming up to another minor road crossing, which is so typical of this part of the Fosseway. It's a bit like the junction, it's a bit like that S-bend earlier on. We join the road slightly for a while, then as it bends round to the right, you guessed it, we carry on. That's where the motor traffic goes. This is where the Roman traffic goes. And look, there's a tree down. Not surprising, there were very strong winds yesterday. Need to just stop and lift our bike over that. Once again on an S-bend, that's the way we came. That track in between the hedge and the trees. Crossing this S-bend, and then we're coming down here. Gonna have to just lift the bike over that tree there. Here we are, folks. Look at that. That is a beast, isn't it? Luckily, we don't have to go through that, although cars do. There's a footpath and a packhorse bridge. Right, let's get off and walk this section because it's worth filming. That is a river crossing, isn't it? So this is the Tetbraven. Even in the summer you wouldn't want to ride across that. You certainly wouldn't want to ride across it this time of the year. So it's cutting across left to right. As you can see, it spills over. There's this wonderful packhorse bridge, if I can show you here. Hopefully you can see it from there. That saved our bacon today, hasn't it? That's the Tetbraven upstream, flowing underneath our packhorse bridge, heading that way. As you can see, it spills off either side, almost like overflows, isn't it? And that's the Fosseway going straight through. We've got one more watercourse to cross. So back there, quarter of a mile, was a tributary of this river, and then our final watercourse crossing before we leave the Fosseway would be another tributary of this. So this is the other end of the crossing. See those massive stones there. You can see the flow of the Tetbraven going from right to left that way. That's the way we came down. Luckily there's that packhorse bridge there. I have seen cars drive through that in the summer when it's a lot lower. It's still fairly substantial. I wouldn't ride through it. I've seen four-wheel drives go through it and normal domestic public, private cars. And I've also seen a lady came down here. She took one look at that, decided she wasn't going to drive through it, and I helped her kind of do a U-turn here, and then we rode back up there together. She was worried that she was going to break the suspension on her car, actually. Anyway, onwards for the last watercourse crossing, and then soon after that we'll be leaving the Fosseway and then making our loop round into Cirencester. So you can see along here, not only have cars with low chassis got to be very careful along here, they don't bottom out. Cyclists have got to be as well. That wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. A little bit of push. I thought there may be more floodwater up this side, but there's not. It's funny, isn't it? Psyched myself up for that being quite wet and puddly up there, and it's not at all. And we're coming up to, you've guessed it, we're crossing a road. I've just seen a car go from left to right. As I said earlier on, I was reading up about typical distances in Roman times along the Fosseway, and about 40 kilometres was about the average, 25 miles. And I would have done that today by the time I got off this section of the Fosseway. And I would say, even on a modern bike, it takes up a big chunk of the day. Oh gosh, look, all those Christmas trees there, wrapped ready. Oh, there you go. Careful crossing this road. As Tolkien would say, the road goes ever on. So on one of these final legs of off-road, it's hard to get your head around the fact this was a main trading and military route between Exeter down in Devon and Lincoln up in the Midlands, heading up to the northeast. And by the time we leave this section of the Fosseway, we'll be on about 25 miles. And then Cirencester itself would be a few more miles on. We're going to skirt round because there's no access to the airport. Now I say to myself, it's been hard enough doing this in good weather on a bike with gears, pneumatic tyres. You imagine what a horse and cart would have been like, being pulled by mules or oxen, maybe heavily laden with goods, commodities. I don't think they'd have managed that in a day, which is why, as well as that Roman settlement on the river, the Shurston Haven, I'm pretty sure there would have been other stations along here just to cater for people on such a hard leg of the Fosseway. Could it have been down in that dip by the Broadmead Brook? I honestly don't know. But I don't think it's an impossible assumption. Let me know what you think. We've still got another 20 miles to go, and it must be early afternoon by now. But once we leave the Fosseway, we will start making up some time on tarmac as we head through Cirencester, or should I say Corinium, and then veer off to the Cotswolds and our destination Bybree. Been there many times. I've passed through Bybree many times, normally on old axes when I've been tired. I've always stopped and had a look, sometimes had an ice cream or a sandwich there. I'm just really looking forward to staying there tonight in a really upmarket part of the Cotswolds for about the same price as a travel lodge. I think this is the end of the Fosseway for us coming up. I'll explain what's happening up here. Yep, my Garmin's going off sharp to the right. We're going to snake round that way on tarmac now. That's the end of the Fosseway for us today, folks, at this minor road. Can you see it actually carries on that way through there, the course of it? Can you see those buildings over there? That's the Cotswold Airport, which is actually being built on the course of the Fosseway. You can actually go along there. I've done it before. I did it back in the summer. Go along there, right up to the boundary, stop my Garmin, come back here, go around that way, literally do a circuit, literally come back here with the Garmin not running, go around half a circle and rejoin the Fosseway. It's a fairly main road going into Cirencester, the other end of the airport, and you can see the track of it. I did it as an experiment to see exactly where it went across the airfield and the runway. And if I put a diagram on the screen now, you'll see the course of the original Roman road. And then you'll see the course of my Garmin track, which I manipulated, you know, to keep it in a straight line. And you'll see it pretty much follows the course of the Fosseway. You can ride most of it, with the exception of that bit. You've got to kind of manipulate the Garmin data a little bit. And you'll see that red line, the Garmin track. You'll see it looks like a broken line in places. All the white bits are the off-road. Anyway, we're going to head round that way. I'm going to put my head down a little bit, work my way round through Kemble, and then we're heading to Cirencester on some quieter roads. I'm going to look for a shop there, pick up a newspaper and some beer, and then we'll be heading off that way. Okay, change of plan, a good change of plan as well. I've just come into Oaksea, which is on the Athelstan Pilgrim Way, was one of the churches along there, but I suddenly remembered Oaksea Village Shop. So I've got myself some beer for tonight and a cheap newspaper to pack my shoes out with later on. I've got a bit of a wiggly route to get through Cirencester, and I was thinking I'll just stop somewhere and just dive off a side street and try and find a Tesco's or something. So I don't have to do that now. I can make my way right the way through Cirencester, which is brilliant. I put out a Facebook post this morning about what I was doing today, and I finished it off with saying I was hoping to achieve the 4 C's tonight. Chapel, cooking, chicken curry. 5 if I could find some Cobra beer. Well, I haven't quite got to Cobra beer, but the 5 C's, I think Carlsberg qualifies, don't you? The 5 C's. Chapel, cooking, chicken curry, Carlsberg. And I'm just going to play with that little dog a second, give him his ball back. Still early afternoon. I am making really good progress now, so I thought I'd stop and show you another river. The mother of all rivers, eh? This is the Thames. The source that way, London, I believe, and the North Sea that way, the Thames Path. It occurred to me, the history theme, this morning was the Fosseway, Romans, and I'm now in an Anglo-Saxon kingdom, aren't I? Athelstan, the first king of the United England, had his capital in Malmesbury, and all the benefices, areas that he would have known and travelled through were all round here, Oaksey being one of them back there. So from the Romans to the Anglo-Saxons, and then an 18th century chapel tonight with a 19th century schoolroom attached to it, which has actually been converted into a fully equipped kitchen, hence the reason I want to cook tonight. Wow, this is just such a nice road. Wow, look how clear that water is. That really is clear, isn't it? So the bit through Cirencester wasn't too bad at all, and even these main roads heading out of town across the bypasses all got cycle paths. They're basically smooth pavements. But just down there, it's a service area, you know, with a Shell garage and a Greggs. And look how it goes. We're about to join the Fosseway. We're going to be crossing it actually. Look, Fossbridge, North Leach, that's where it all heads up there. So ladies and gentlemen, the Fosseway has got a Greggs just off of it. We're going to cross the Fosseway here and then bear off to the right. We're heading up towards, I'm not sure yet, but I know we're going off to the right. We're on this B road, east of Cirencester. There's signs for Bybury, Burford, I've seen a couple already. This is Barnsley, not to be confused with Barnsley in Yorkshire, Barnsley in the Cotswolds. And we're less than 3 miles to go, 2.8 to the chapel. We're heading into the Colne Valley. As I understand it, the River Colne splits right through the two hamlets, and Arlington, where we are, is part of Bybury, and I think the river bridge splits the two. So the river I've been seeing, I'm not sure if that's the Colne, it kind of disappeared over there somewhere, but we're not far from our destination anyway. I'll probably overshoot the chapel, over the bridge, the Colne, into Bybury. Been through it many times before. It's always heaving with coach loads of tourists, so I'll kind of go there and have do the touristy bit this afternoon, because it's still fairly early, believe it or not, even though it's clouding over a bit. This was forecast, bit of mid-afternoon rain. This is nothing to concern myself with. We're in the village of Barnsley now, and it really does feel the heart of the Cotswolds. The village pub, which looks like it's thriving. That smell of wood smoke. Church over there. Not going to go there today, but maybe on a future occasion. Christmas trees. And I think there's a lot of wealth from London down here. It really is. I think a good example of that is, look, the old school. I'm sure that's not a school anymore, private residence. The clock's even accurate as well. You can tell when you're in a prosperous area, they mend the clocks. So it's 3 p.m. and I think the next village is going to be ours. Okay, just as the Garmin clicks down, less than 2 miles to go, 1.9. We're coming into somewhere. See what this says. Oh, it's a farm. Dovecot Workshops, Barnsley Park. Oh, I thought we were coming into a village. Pretty sure ours will be the next, Arlington stroke Bybury. The weather appears as though it's setting for the day, but I don't think that's the case. Looking at the BBC weather forecast, I think it's going to be like this till dusk and then clear tonight. There's always something really exciting about the final run-in, watching the Garmin go down. We're on 1.7, said it many times before. Pretty sure it's dopamine, it's goal setting. I'm approaching my goal, aren't I? But I do get a buzz off that. I always have since I've had the Garmin, seeing the figures actually count down. A few spots of rain in the air, nothing to be concerned about. I was a postman for about a quarter of a century, so you just had to get on with it. Used to say to myself, there's nothing you can do to stop it. What you can do is manage it, or manage how you deal with it. The main thing is be as efficient as possible, have dry clothes, keep them as dry as long as possible, hot food and hot drink really. Going to cheat a little bit, going to avoid that puddle. That's probably one of the coaches that's just come from Bybury. Whenever you go through there, there's always coach loads of tourists, Americans, Japanese, Chinese. 1.2 miles to go now, and we seem to be dropping down into the Colne Valley, I'm guessing. It's going to be quite satisfying staying in a village. If they're not millionaires, I'm sure most of the residents' properties are $1 million plus. I'll be spending the night exclusive use of a historic building for the price of a travel lodge. Hey ho, bargain. The only bit of me that's a little bit cold is my feet. I just gave up trying to keep them dry after I walked through that field at the Roman settlement, and so I'm looking forward to taking these shoes and socks off. Got clean socks for tomorrow, dry socks, and stuffing the shoes full of newspaper. And then the warmest room, I'll keep them in there overnight. I've got Crocs for tonight, tracksuit bottoms, but I've also got my thermal tent shoes. They're like full of down. I took them hot tent camping recently and I just didn't need them. I thought, should I bring them tonight? You may be glad of them, and I think I will be, especially if it's a cold stone floor. I've just spotted what I think is a boundary sign with the speed limit on, one of those gate structures. See what that says. Is that Arlington, Bybury? Bybury. Here we are, Arrive. So I know the chapel is just set back on the left from this B road, so I'll just check that out before we ride by it, and then we're going to Bybury itself before it gets dark. Said Arlington Fields back that way. I can see the end of the Garmin track along here off to the left. Gosh, there's some prosperity along here. I've got exclusive use of the chapel from 4 p.m. onwards. I can shut the door then, but before that the public have got access, and back there it only said 3 o'clock, so I'm doing fine for time. There's like a little loop round by the chapel. I could have gone up there, or there's this one here, the Baptist church, look. Now it is Arlington Baptist Church. The Garmin's confirming it, that cheesy little jingle. There it is, Arlington Baptist Church and the old schoolhouse. Oh, the old schoolroom. So that's mine for tonight. I'm going to pop down to Bybury first and have a quick look round, then we'll head back here. It should take us into Bybury, up a road, or a road, I don't know. Arlington Road. Oh yeah, that's the famous row of houses. Yeah, we're going to have a look at that on the way back to the chapel. Yeah, I want to go and see that. Going to try and do the tourism today, because I think tomorrow I'm going to be keen to get moving. Oh look, there's kind of like a village shop there. Gosh. Here's the bridge over the Colne. The Churches Conservation Trust for this property, well, the Champing page actually says the boundary between the two parishes is the river bridge. Here we are, look, Touristville. It is a beautiful place. I've stopped here in the summer and dipped my feet in the water. It really is a lovely place. It'd be a shame not to come down here and see it in the light. How's this for paradise? I may even wander down here tonight, I don't know. Gosh, look at this. I'm staying here tonight for the price of a travel lodge. Wonder how much a hotel would cost here, even if there was any. Wow. It's the River Colne. I don't know much about it. I'll look it up tonight on the phone, tell you a little bit about where it rises and where it flows into. So that's downstream, isn't it, the flow? And that's upstream. Beautiful place. Oh wow, I didn't have the camera out in time. 3 swans flew over. You heard that wonderful sound, and then one of them has just landed. The other 2 veered off that way. What a beautiful place. Feels wintry but nice. Rain's coming on. I can get in the chapel whatever time I want. It's just I may have to share it with other people before 4 o'clock. Because they're called steps walking down. I have bathed my feet here on really hot days on an Audax ride. Got here about 3 o'clock in the afternoon in June and July. Absolutely roasting. Let's go and have a look at the waterfall over there. Oh wow, look what the stream's converging into the river. It's almost like a mill pond, isn't it? These lovely gardens they've made. Wow, I bet that's nice on a sunny day. This feels very much like youth hostling in the old days, where you could turn up to a village like this, say Exford down on Exmoor, and just think, great, I'm staying here tonight, I've got some affordable accommodation. Those days have long gone, I'm afraid. There's very little that welcomes solo visitors. But the great thing is there's Champing, so I've just migrated from youth hosting over to Champing. I actually love Champing. I can't believe I've got some affordable accommodation here tonight. Swan Hotel. Can you imagine what it costs to have a room in there for tonight? Certainly beyond my price range. Wow. That's lovely to have tea there on a sunny day. Little doves cut up now. It is a beautiful village. You can see why it attracts tourists. So, Burford is that way. Northleach is that way. Okay, yes, so when we came up from Cirencester, the Fosseway went straight on and we bared off to the right. And actually what we're doing, we're curving along it. So Northleach up there is where the Fosseway passes through. So we're in the shadow of the Fosseway really. We're down in the valley below it, not that far from it. And then what's along Barnsley, Cirencester, the way we've come, yeah. Northleach would be along there. Carry on along there and you'll intersect the Fosseway. Oh, this is just so nice. Not having to rush through, get home on an Audax. Knowing that this is my destination for the night. I'm staying here tonight. Look at that waterfall over there. Oh, this is just absolutely fantastic. I can't think of a nicer way to spend a winter's afternoon than arriving here. I'm looking forward to Champing tonight. Christmas at Byberry. Oh, look at that. That does look really nice, doesn't it? That burner going there. More white water. Gosh. Should have said grey water. Okay, it came on to rain as I was walking up towards the Harlington Row, and I thought, no, just head for the accommodation. This is what was the old school classroom. You can see it's been converted into what it just looks like a 1930s village hall, doesn't it?